Right. Okay, are we rolling? Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to another interview where I'm pleased to be joined by Anthony Bromley of High Flyer Bloodstock. Anthony, how are you?
Yeah, no, very good. Yeah.
Good. So I think the first place to start, is talking about High Flyer Bloodstock. For people who are not too aware of what you do, could you shed a little bit of light on what you do?
So the day job is I'm a Bloodstock agent, and I work with David Minton and Tessie Greatrix, and the three of us are agents, and we are High Flyer Bloodstock. We work for a number of different trainers and owners and clients, and we try and source horses for the trainers or for the owners, and we charge a commission for doing so. But we're always sort of looking for horses, flat and jumps, and at all ages. But we're sort of been quite well known for the jumpers, really.
I mean, just looking through some of the horses you've purchased in the past, there's lots of Corto Star, Big Buck, Sprinter Sacra, Altior, Bouvedere, Bristol De Mai and Fredo. That's quite a list of not just average horses, they're absolute champions and probably some of the best horses we've seen in the 21st century over the jumps.
Yeah, no, we're the sort of backroom men, really, behind the scenes sort of thing. And quite rightly, the owners, the trainers, the jockeys, they're the main guys, but we're sort of working away. We're sort of the hidden element that people don't really know about. But there's always got to be, the trainers can't be searching for all these horses. They've got to train loads of horses. They need some help, and we sort of help do that.
As a Bloodstock agent, you've been involved in many sales before. What do you particularly look for when you're at the sales? And is there a set type, or is it what do you basically look for in a nutshell?
Yeah, no, I mean, athleticism is really the main thing. Whether or not you're buying on the flat or over jumps, you want a sound animal that's going to stay. These days, whether or not you're going flat or jumps, you need something that's going to stay sound. When these trainers have to get them really fit, they need to be able to take quite a lot of hard work before they get to the track. So you need confirmation of the horse that will take the hard training. You need economic use of their limbs as such. So when we talk about an athlete, a good walker, a good mover, a good walker relates to their canter and their gallop. And if they're doing that economically, that helps. It doesn't make sure that they have an engine that comes through pedigree and different things like that, obviously. But there are horses that suit different trainers. I know over all the years we've been buying for sort of Nicky Henderson or Alan King there, and in the lots of other different trainers I buy for, there are certain horses, oh, that's a horse that Nicky will like, or that's a horse that Kingy will like, or and it's just, you just get to know, because you work with them for so many years at so many sales, the type of horse they might like. So when you get to a sale and you see a horse, oh, that could go on his list because I think you'll like that. You sort of get used to working with people over a period of time, and that seems to have worked well. I work with David Minton, who's been has been buying with Nicky Henderson all his training career, and it rubs off. It's been a great grounding for me. I mean, I've worked with them for 30 years, so they've been great people to follow, because as you say, there's some lovely horses amongst those that Nicky trained and that they bought as stores. I didn't buy Alti, or they did, and just working alongside those has been great for me, and hopefully some of it's rubbed off.
So moving on to the Simon Munir and Isaac Swade connection. First of all, how did that come about?
I started bought a horse for Simon Munir about 10 years ago. And it soon, within a very short period of time, we bought 5 or 6. And actually that season, they all won. And the 6th horse I bought was Soldatino, who won the Adonis within a few weeks, and then the Triumph Hurdle. So it was a good first season, and that sort of cemented the relationship, and it sort of built from there, really. And then Isaac got involved a few years later, and they're now harvesting all the horses together.
So looking back on last week, Bristol De Mai, 3rd Betfair Chase on Saturday at Haydock Park. A fantastic performance as well. You must have been very pleased.
I was elated. I mean, it was such a shame there was no crowd at Haydock, really, because the Haydock crowd really have warmed to him over the years. And, you could see what it meant to Darryl when he won, and they would have really responded to that on the day. I mean, it didn't seem to worry Darryl. There was no one about. He was just in a world of his own, and he probably could have been in trouble for hugging me across the rail. But anyway, I don't think he got told off. But he was just he had a lovely time, and so did we watching. And I've had so many nice comments from people that watched it on, on TV. They had to be watching it on TV, and a lot of neutrals loved the horse winning. I mean, there's nothing better than a front-running grey, is there, on song? And it looked like he might get beat up the straight. So when he dug in and beat and then came back for more, it was wonderful. And no, he's been a great horse. He's been a great horse.
I mean, talking about the race, turning, I think it was the third from home, there was a slight glance when Darrell looked to his left and no one was behind him. But then to his right, we had Sam motionless on Flanders Oboe. What was you feeling when you saw that, when Darrell took the look around and then all of a sudden he probably wasn't aware of Sam next to him?
You felt like shouting, well, we were shouting really because I was there, but it was like at the pantomime, he's behind you. No, he's not that side, the other way, Yeah, no, we all, and I think everyone was screaming at the telly the same. So if they weren't there, so I mean, he wasn't as worried as we were watching it. He could hear the horse, he just couldn't see it, and it looked like he suddenly panicked. But he had thought he would make the move at that moment anyway, so he just asked him to lengthen and stretch. And no, look, it was it all worked out. Last year the preparation was awful going into the Betfair Chase, and he was well undercooked, and he did amazingly well to finish second last year on the training he'd had. And for this year, the preparation had gone well. And I mean, Flanders Oboe made it a great race, didn't it? A great spectacle. But and I bought Flanders Oboe, so it was interesting. So yeah.
So looking ahead to Bristol De Mai's targets, I know Daryl Jacob after the race spoke about the Grand National potentially. Would that be a race where you think he'd be suited? I mean, looking at how he jumps around Haydock, he's a very good jumper. He can travel well as well. The only concern for me from the outside looking in would be a weight issue, especially if Tiger were to be retired. He could carry a big weight potentially and a step up in trip. But do you think he could be a potential horse to make into a national contender?
I think you'll find he'll run in it. Personally, I don't know. I'm not sure he stayed the Gold Cup trip, to be honest. So whether or not he'll get 4.5 miles, I don't know. But I think Connections all wanted to try it this year, so I'm sure that they'll get their way this year. This coming spring.
So will he have one more round between? Maybe the Cotswold Chase?
Yeah, he won't have. Cotswold Chase appears to be the plan. Might get an entry in the Gold Cup, but I would say that he'd have 2 runs this year. I would imagine it'll be Cotswold Chase followed by the National, but it's not set in stone. Obviously, these things can, it's always fluid, aren't they?
So looking ahead to the weekend, the Spring Winter Carnival, at Newbury. I know that got a few huge runners on in the Fighting Fifth and Hennessy. But starting things off on the Friday, you've got Caribbean Boy in the Novices Chase, the Grade 2. It looks like a 3-horse race against Fiddler on the Roof and Getaway Trump. He won very impressively last time out at Haydock under a good ride from James Bowen. This looked a step up on paper with Fiddler on the Roof, who's taken a couple of opportunities to get off the mark, and Getaway Trump hasn't looked the best on the fences either. Do you think he could have a little squeak here in what looks a very tightly contested race?
Yes, and if he was in the form in the spring, yes. I don't get the impression that he's completely tuned up. And it also, I would be preferred it was softer ground, to be honest. I mean, the ground they're saying is good to soft, and it could even be good by Friday, and that wouldn't be ideal. I think, he does go in very soft, heavy ground. The temptation was to stretch him to go the 3 miles on Saturday, but he was a bit keen in both his races last year. So I thought that talking to Nicky, we both discussed it and felt that if he was a bit keen, we'd probably better run him in the 2.5 first run of the season. He's fit enough to go and run. Whether or not he's at peak fitness, I don't know. We'll see. I think a Fiddler on the Roof for me would win the race. But I want to see a nice run from him, get the freshness out of him. And then he needs a 3rd run over fences to be able to run in a proper handicap. So because he's a novice till Sunday, he had to get a run this week, really, in a novice chase to get that 3rd run. Because I can't run him in something like a Caspian Gold Cup or something like that until he's had the 3rd run. You've got to have run in 3 chases to run in a big handicap. So, yeah, I think this race will bring him on for the thing. If we can win it on the way, that'd be great, But look, I was expecting more than 3 runners to be in the race, so it's an engagement which is quite interesting. But the ratings, he's not supposed to beat Fiddle on the Roof, and he probably won't, But look, it'd be nice to see him. He's a horse. We were going to. He was going to go to Aintree. We purposely kept him away from Cheltenham, thinking he was a bit inexperienced for that moment in time in March. And we said, we'll keep him fresh and go to Aintree when the Irish aren't there. And the English will have all been at Cheltenham. And anyway, as we all know, Aintree didn't happen. So we now have to, rejig things. And he's a big horse. That's why it's taken a while to get him on the track this time. So I think it's taken a while for Nicky to get him fit enough. He says he's fit enough to run. So let's hope he runs well.
So looking ahead to Saturday, I'm going to talk about So Royal in the Fighting Fifth. On paper, this looks to be his biggest test of the season. He's coming up against the reigning champion hurdler Epatante, but his first 2 runs of the season, the form from Foss Lath looks to be stacking up. You've got Andy, who's run a great race in the Great Wood Hurdle, and also Buzz, who come out on Friday at Ascot and look very nice. I mean, as far as versatility goes, he's not too far off Altior on his highest chase form. Over hurdles, he's been very, very impressive as well.
Yeah, Alan's got him in the form of his life at the moment. And look, I mean, he's about 8 years old, and he seems old for going back hurdling, but back in the day, and you won't remember these, but the horses like Bird's Nest and Night Nurse and Sea Pigeon were all winning champion hurdles at age 10. So, look, it's not unheard of for an older horse to come back hurdling and do well, and he's enjoying himself. The ground's only going to be good at Newcastle, which is interesting, and that's why I think you'll see why Darrell's going there to ride him. He just feels that he's done nothing wrong this season and he deserves a shot at a Grade 1. If we kept him for the international hurdle, he has a £6 penalty because of his Grade 2 win in the elite hurdle. So he has to run in a Grade 1 at level weight, but he obviously has to give the mare's allowance to Epatante. And she's not a big mare, so I imagine she's pretty fit first time up. So she'll be tough nut to crack, really. And you'd have to give a lot of respect to Evan Williams' horse too. So it's, we're not even guaranteed to come second. But at the end of the day, he's in the form of his life. Alan's got him spot on. He did a little bit of a soft palate operation in September, and it seems to have just been that little bit of improvement, or the horse's confidence has grown a little bit. Last season was always in soft, heavy ground, and he is getting good ground this year. So who knows? I mean, as you say, we thought 18 months ago he was going to win the Champion Chase 2 out, when he went to the front, and he only just got touched off by Politolog and Altior. So it is pretty strong form over fences, and he's not a big horse, and hurdling does seem to suit him quite well. And I think he deserves a shot at it, obviously. And look, if there's any chink in Epatante's fitness, and Cornerstone Lad will make sure there's a strong, pace up front. She'll have to be on the money. I imagine she will, but I think we deserve a crack at it, and it'd be lovely to. He hasn't won a Grade 1 over hurdles. He won the Henry VIII, didn't he, over fences as a novice? But he's won a lot of good races for Simon Isaac, and he's been a lovely horse, and be amazing if he could do it.
Would the bigger picture be the Champion Hurdle? I mean, the 2 mile hurdling route itself, it's lacking in my opinion. I mean, of course, you've got Epatante, who's come out and is running champion. We still haven't seen Goshen yet. I mean, I'm not too sure where we're going to see Goshen. There's Silver Streak in here as well. So is that the reason why do you think Alan King might have chanced his hand over the hurdles rather than maybe going over fences and bumping into Chatham Poursoir, maybe an Altior later on down the line?
Yeah, well, we nearly ran him in the Schlur the other day back over fences. As it turned out, the ground went bad, so we wouldn't have done that anyway. It wouldn't surprise me if we aren't back chasing by come March, but we'll see. If he goes and wins a Fighting Fifth followed by the Christmas Hurdle, yeah, you'll definitely see him in the Champion Hurdle. But a few years ago, we ran him in the Champion Hurdle. He came 6th. Footpad was 4th. They ran 2 in the race. That's probably where he is. But who knows? He might be slightly improved. And as you say, and if they're slightly not as good as they were a couple of years ago, we might decide that he's got the best chance of getting in the frame in the Champion Hurdle this year. But at the moment, not many Irish horses are coming across. So whilst the English trials are being run with just the English horses, why don't we stick at it? They're good races. So we'll go as long as we can keep the ground and things are going well. But if he gets thumped on Saturday, we'll look at the situation. It might be that he goes at Christmas, doesn't go at Christmas early, goes for the Desert Orchid. He's a very versatile horse, but he's in good form, and he's a pleasure to be involved with.
Looking ahead to the Hennessy, or now as the Ladbrokes Trophy, as it's now called, Kilda Sart looks to be heading there for Ben Pauling. Nico de Boinville will take the ride, obviously because Darrell's going to Newcastle. He ran a very good race at Cheltenham last time, behind the conditional in the Ultima. Before that was I catch him 5th in the Bet Chase at Kempton. I mean, where would you long term? Could he be a Grand National horse? I mean, he's run over hurdles Weatherby last time out was very impressive, and I know from last season, I think he was penciled in for the National before the truncated season. Is that what you're looking at again this season?
I'd have fancied him for the National. I think the only thing that was negative for the National last year was he had a hard race at Cheltenham, and it was only going to be 3 weeks into the Grand National. But we all thought, well, to be honest, we thought, when we were watching the, what was it, the virtual Grand National, we thought he was going to have a hell of a chance. And I actually had a bet on him. We thought because he was going to be well handicapped going into the National because he was £6 higher or something subsequently. So he's now got to run off that £6 higher mark because he went up £5 or £6 for running second at Cheltenham. But he was going to be running off his old mark in the Grand Nationals this year. So we thought his chance for the National was probably this year in April. But no, the aim is to try to target the Grand National. But to be honest, first target of the season was this race, and we needed that run over hurdles just to put him straight. I thought it was a very eye-catching run. Ben's were just starting to come into form, and he was one of the ones who actually ran well, and his horse is now running fine, and the good ground will be, I think, a plus for him. You remember he won at Aintree the year before. He won the big handicap on Grand National Day on decent ground. I think he's got a right good chance on Saturday. Darryl might regret choosing to go to Newcastle.
I mean, looking at the form, he's got to reverse a short head or a neck it was with the conditional. But if there's a chance to beat the conditional, it would be now. He's not had the run yet. By the looks of it, from what David Bridgewater said during the week, he might need the run, and he might look to come on for the run, whereas Killed Sart has had that benefit of a run, so it could be a good opportunity to reverse the form. Yeah,
I hope so. I don't think there's anything obviously in the race which is a blot on the handicap. So you could make a case for 8 or 9 in the race, and he's certainly one of those. And we've trained him for this race, and he's really fit and well. So trainer was very happy with how he went yesterday. So fingers crossed, Nico should have a good spare ride in this one.
So looking ahead as well at Bangor, Fred's penciled in to go to Bangor.
Yeah, we're going to probably miss that. The ground went soft, heavy in places this morning, and I think we might even stretch him a bit further. We might even look at Ludlow next week over 3 miles for him next Wednesday. Talking about Fred, he ran in behind All Mankind at Warwick last time, and he looked very impressive. What would be the aim for Fred this season over fences? Well, we just got to get him going, and we got to get his trip right for a start. We are playing with his trip. All Mankind got him at it a bit, and we went to try to. We were the only one who went with him in the Warwick race, All Mankind, to try to beat him, but we ended up getting pretty tired, and he ended up losing second and third place on the day. But he actually ran with some promise. But Darryl wanted to go up in trip, and that's why we're looking at 2.5 miles at Bangor. But with it going really testing, I think. Anyway, we're penciling in Ludlow, and we might just stretch him to 3 miles just to see how it goes. Look, I'd like to. He's 144. The handicap has probably got him a bit high. We can't really go in a handicap, novice handicap at the moment, so we have to run in these beginners and straight novices and see where we get. Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful. He won a couple of nice races over hurdles last year, and we got reasonable hopes for him, but we just want to start to see it coming together.
I mean, looking over in Ireland, I think Concertistas has got 2 entries on the Saturday and Sunday. She was very impressive in the dawn run at Cheltenham on a previous appearance. Depending on how she goes, would she be a horse who you might look to take down the mare's route, maybe target in the festival, potentially at the end of the season?
I would have. Yeah, very much so. It wasn't even set in stone that Willie was going to go for the mare's novice last year. The team back home, Casey and Ruby, wanted to go in the Coral Cup over 2 mile 5, but anyway, we didn't do that, thankfully. So we do think she wants 2.5 miles. So the mare's hurdle's the automatic target, and I think Willie's working back from that. She's in the Royal Bond on Sunday, but I'm almost certain she'll go for the mare's hurdle Saturday. Seems the most sensible route. Why go take on all those smart geldings when you don't need to at the moment? So I imagine, but it's sort of, but Willie, it all works back from Cheltenham in March. So, the targets aren't early season; they just are stepping stones towards March, really. So we'll see. I don't know how straight she'll be for the first run, but she's a good mare, and it'd be exciting to see her out again. It's been a long time since we saw her on the track.
I mean, looking at some of the other horses that you've got, If the Cat Fits, he was a recent buy, obviously coming out of the Roonies. Had a couple of runs over fences this season. He won very impressively at Foss last, where he beat some nice horses in Fiddler on the Roof and Emitom. What did you make of his run at Sandown behind Pim last time? And it just looked like Pim perhaps got into a better rhythm, and If the Cat Fit was slightly on the front foot and ran Sandown. It's a track where if you get on the front foot, it can be a bit difficult to get on terms of a horse who's jumping well.
Yeah. I thought his jumping came on from first run to second run. It was always a bit of a risk where we took by taking him in against second season novices on his second run over fences. But I thought he learned a lot from the Sandown run. His jumping was more accomplished. It would have been, Pim had it all his own way up front, and we couldn't trade it with him because he tried it early in the race, and it thought that the only one who's going to come out worse than this was us, and that's because of inexperience. I think our general feeling was that afterwards we'll bring him back in trip and be a bit more aggressive, and we'll put the cheek pieces on which he used to wear over hurdles. And now I targeted, there was a grade 2 called the Knoll Novices Chase at Ascot just before Christmas, which in the programme book says it's 2 mile 5.5. But apparently on the racing website, they've changed it and they brought it back to 2 mile 2 and a bit. So we're talking just today that Harry and I, that we've got to rethink what we do with him. So we'd rather run him at 2 mile 5. And it might be that he waits for the Dipper Novices Chase on New Year's Day at Cheltenham. That's probably where he might go. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's still a nice prospect. I mean, they moved his handicap mark over fences to 100. They just moved it across. They said he's 162 hurdling and he's 162 over fences, which he's blatant. He wasn't that at Sandown. How can you be on yours? It's a bit weird how they do that. They give you a handicap mark so high when you haven't anywhere near achieved it over the other obstacle. But look, he's a nice horse and exciting prospect. And look, he might be a horse for the Golden Miller more than the RSA, but he'd be the sort of horse that we hope can get him to the festival in one of those two races.
I mean, looking back at last week, Call Me Lord finished in behind Song for Someone. It was a 3-runner race. What did you make of the run? I think Song for Someone just seemed to have the run of the race, and Call Me Lord's found it hard to peg him back.
Yeah. James felt that he felt a little bit flat from, we only ran him 2 weeks earlier at Aintree, and he actually, going to the last at Aintree, James thought he could win, and he's ended up having a bit of a race at Aintree, probably a bit harder race than he needed, with the fact that the Coral Hurdle was only 2 weeks thing, but he needed that run to get the run into him. He probably just ran a little bit flat. I think Song for Someone is on the upgrade, and it was nicely ridden by Nico. And Call Me Lord, I mean, I think I was told, I was on the way to Haydock, but I was told that Mr. Chapman felt that hadn't campaigned Call Me Lord very well. But I tell you what, I give him the program book. You try and work out how to run it. Once you've won a grade 2 international hurdle, you get a £6 penalty in these grade 2 hurdles. It's not easy. So sometimes you have to run in grade 1s, like the Champion Hurdle. Why not? I mean, what else could I run in at Cheltenham Festival this year? He'd won the international hurdle. He hadn't stayed in the long walk the year before, so we couldn't really run him in the Stairs Hurdle. And there's nowhere else for a horse like him to go. I've run him with top weight and handicaps, and he finds that hard. He's not the biggest stature of horse, and he's run well in the Imperial Cups in the past with top weight. But I couldn't quite work out how he said something like, "Oh, if this horse had been campaigned right, he'd have won heaps of grade 3s." Well, grade 3s are actually handicaps, so I'm not so sure how many grade 3s he could have won. I tried a few, and he hasn't been able to win those. Anyway, where do I go with him next? I'm waiting for Mr. Chapman to tell me where I'm supposed to run him next, because I'm a bit of a quandary with it, to be honest. At least we can go the other way around. Whereas earlier in his career, he wouldn't go. He was jumping too far to the one side, so he had to run him always around sort of Sandown, Ascot. But he won the international the other day, and he ran fine and jumped straight at Aintree. He seems to have got better over the last 2 seasons, and that's testament to quite a lot of work that physios and the vets have helped him with. And he's not a chaser. We've tried him at home, and he doesn't jump fences very well. So he has got to stay hurdling. We'll put an entry in for the long walk hurdle again. He was favourite for it 2 years ago and didn't stay, but we just think he's a slightly different horse now, and it might be worth the roll of the dice. But it's, you know, as we see by this race on Friday, the long distance hurdle, there's a lot of nice staying hurdlers about. So, but anyway, I'm other than that, I'm not really sure where I run him, because he could run if we wait for the Rel Keel on New Year's Day, again, he's got that £6 penalty to carry, and he's rated now 152. So you're sort of effectively could be, you know, you're effectively going to be running off 146, and that's not going to be good enough to win a Rel Keel against these 150 plus horses on without the penalty. But anyway, it's hard when you get those good horses, but not quite top class. It's they're not easy to place, but he's a grand horse, and we'll keep working away, you know.
Just to conclude, we're talking about a couple more runners for the entered in for the future races. Calais Mad's an interesting one, penciled in for the Beecher. Hasn't been seen since the 2019 Classic Chase. I mean, for a comeback race, this looks a unique test over the entry course over the national fences. If he can, is it potentially going to be a race to bring him on for, with a possible view to a national maybe in the future maybe?
Well, certainly that season where he just got touched off in the Borders National and then just got touched off in the Classic Chase. The aim was that season to go for the Grand National. He was rated 147, and that would have been his target that season. But he broke down or got a leg in that Classic Chase, which is a real shame. So he's been off all this time. Done a lot of rehabilitation with him. He's in good form. He's working well. You'd expect that he'd need the first run back, but to be fair, Nigel gets him fairly straight. Wherever you run a horse, they've dropped him £5 for obviously the period off, which is a sort of a customary thing. So he's off 142. We could go Beecher Chase next weekend. I'll also pop him in the London National, but that's further. So that's 3 mile 5. There is, if I wanted, the may get a backup entry in the Welsh National Trial at Chepstow, which is a 3 mile. That would be a sort of softer, safer bet, but it's less prize money, obviously. He's ready to get a run. And he needs to go. 142 isn't going to be high enough to get him in the Grand National. So he needs to go and win off that and move forwards. But, I mean, I would imagine that he would probably go back for the Classic Chase at Warwick. He'd run this time. Those horses that have been off for 2 seasons, you've got to give them almost 5 weeks after their reappearance run, or else they could bounce. So we could be looking about going for the mid-January Classic Chase again with him after this. But it wouldn't surprise me if we went for the Beecher Chase. I think Nigel quite likes the idea. He loves a big pot to go at,
And as a quick update, how's Terrafore been doing? I know he's been back in exercise now. I think after what was a rather unique and a freakish type of injury where I think he lost an eye, as far as I was aware.
Yeah, it was. He actually got a bit of a touch of a leg anyway, and then but then developed sort of a rare eye disease, which was cancerous, that they needed to remove his eye. It was really quite sad. But the horse has been an amazing patient, and Sally Taylor has had him at Banbury Way. And then Laura Thomas has done 3 months of pre-training work, and now he's been back at Nicky's about a month, and he's still quite a long way off racing again, but he's loving life. And I think Simon put a video up of him cantering this week that Nicky sent through on the Twitter page. And look, it'd be lovely to see him racing again. He was a grand horse a couple of seasons ago. He lost his way a little bit, but he's not the fire still burns bright with him, and he's a very happy horse back at Seven Barrows. So we wouldn't ask him to do anything that we're not happy with or he's not happy with. So, everything's got to go right. But at the moment, so far, so good. He seems to not a bother on him. So, he's looking well and training nicely.
And just finally to conclude with, talking of top notch, entered in the Peterborough Chase, won the race last year. Running the Silvinaga Conti Chase at Kempton in January, I think it was, when he was well fancied and finished third in behind Frodon. How's he been since that race, and how's he looking potentially going into defending his Peterborough Chase crown?
Yeah, I think he'll get there, but he's so fat. Normally, most seasons we can get a run into him, and he always needs that first run. But we seem to have missed out on that this year, and it'll be, I don't know. I'm hopeful he could try and win a third Peterborough Chase, but I'm not that confident. Is my gut feel. He always blows up first run, and I don't know. Let's see. Fingers crossed. But again, these horses, there aren't many. A horse like him, he's a Grade 2 horse, and this year he has a penalty for the Peterborough Chase of £6, whereas last year he didn't have it. And it's the same thing that we're going to have with Janika in a moment. He won a Holden Gold Cup last season, and he now has a £6 penalty in these Grade 2s and listed races, and it's enough of a penalty to stop you winning those. So it's tough on those horses. But that's the way of it, it is what it is. I've used that to our advantage with horses by switching them back, hurdling and things when their penalties have gone. So, with Top Notch and Janika, we didn't have the penalties when we won the Peterborough Chase last year in the Holden Gold Cup, but this year these horses have got those £6 penalties, and that's probably enough to knock you out of the game. But anyway, we'll see. We might see. We might have to run them back over hurdles or something to try something different. But if it doesn't work out, but those two, Janika's not far off running too, and Top Notch. He should get to the Peterborough Chase. That's the plan at the moment. Yeah.
Right, perfect. That's brilliant. I'll stop the recording here because I don't want to lose the footage. I've not been on Zoom for a while, so I'll stop